now, and we're not don't have the cameras locked in,
Okay.
and the mic's checked.
Okay.
How you doing today, ma'am?
Good. How are you?
All right, we went ahead and started the feed so we don't look so unprofessional. It's going.
All right.
I'll push the button in just a second, make sure I got a primer on you guys. And I'll be making changes as we go along. Feed is live on Facebook.
Okay.
Don't hit the button yet, though.
And they were just in here with the mic, so they're good, right?
Yeah, the mics are hot.
Okay.
The mic check one time.
Test 1 2. Test 1 2.
Let me get this one out of here so I can get a better view of you.
Okay. Can we get a laptop again?
All right, I'm about to
I don't know.
push the button,
Good question.
start the feed, mics up.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to We Believe Digital Studios, Jackson, Mississippi. Monday night here for the Sizzling in Mississippi show. Chris Young alongside my co-host Maati Joan Primm. Good evening, Miss Primm.
Good evening, Chris.
We are rock and rolling tonight.
Yes, we are.
We got all kinds of things going on, and we got all kinds of things going on in this amazing city of Jackson, and in other parts of the state too. So we'll try and get to it. Got several topics to go over tonight, and we thank you so much for joining us. And we were just talking before we came on about getting a laptop back in here so we can keep up with comments. We really haven't been doing that for some time now. Need to get back to it. Just bear with us. And again, if we do have a call-in capability, 1-800-492-5186, or just jump into the chat, and we'll ask the producer if he sees anything popping up over there to let us know. And we do have one correction from last week. We talked to you about this mother that brought the baby into the Walmart. Sad situation, wearing just a diaper, 20 degrees outside. But we said that was the Walmart on Highway 18. It was not. It was the one in Byram. So we just wanted to correct that. So Maati, any preference for where we start?
Yes, today is the 5th of February.
Yes.
It's Black History Month.
Okay.
So let's start with Black History.
All right.
Yes.
What in the world are we celebrating for Black History Month?
Well, we are celebrating the month of February, Black History Month, is actually a culmination of celebrating the 12 months since the last Black History Month of the studies that we have done, the things that we have learned, the expanded education that we have sought and gained. And that's what really Black History Month is about. It's about education. Oftentimes, we have a situation where we bring out only about 5 to 10 people of note, and we call that Black History. And as a result, we'll hear people say, well, Black history is American history. It is not. It is not limited to America. So when I hear people say that, or I hear people say, well, the first Black person to do this or the first Black person to do that, it's not only a distraction, but it's meaningless. So we have, for example, W.E.B. Du Bois, who graduated from Harvard University with a PhD, and we're always told, well, he's the first Black person to graduate from Harvard with the PhD, which indicates something that is in error.
Okay.
And that is, so what, who cares? That's not significant when compared to the fact that Black people in Africa created the college and university system. It was Black people in Africa who had the first libraries. And it was also Black people who traveled from Africa into Europe and places like Spain and created libraries and centers of higher learning there. That's what's important. It's not important that one person graduate from Harvard. It's like saying, well, the only significance of Black history is the point where Black people engage with white people. And that causes a truckload of confusion.
So you give me a lot to think about.
Yes.
Because obviously, I mean, born and raised here and seen things happen when I was growing up, and I look forward, and I think we're doing the right thing, and yet you're giving me pause about that. In other words, you're saying, I think what I really hear you saying is a much bigger story than what we here in America will kind of hold out as Black History Month.
Right. Black history is global. And we tend to absolutely ignore an entire continent, and that's Africa.
It's for me, it's rare. Like when you watch the evening news,
Right.
like when you go to CBS or ABC or NBC,
Sure.
it's not common to be seeing stories out of Africa
Right.
on a daily. That's for sure.
Right. Right.
So
Well, it would mess with the programming, which says that we should believe that all Black people in Africa are starving, eat dirt, have flies.
Yeah.
And so that narrative is called into question once you see what Africa really is. A land of skyscrapers, higher education,
Right.
philosophy, the birthplace of Christianity. If we knew all of these type of things, it would fly in the face of the what's the common narrative, which is to miseducate and detour and confuse people.
So how do we? I mean, how do we reconcile? I mean, is there any way to? Let's say, here on a local level, if people that are invested in Black History Month activities,
Mm-hmm.
if they took hold of what you're sharing,
Sure.
is that something that can be reconciled over time, or do you think it's just two very different things?
Well, it shouldn't be two very different things because Dr. Carter G. Woodson intended for the truth of who Black people really are to come forth,
Yeah.
to be studied, and to be recognized.
And really, what we know here now as Black History Month all emanated from what he started out way back in
1926.
Mm.
Right. The common narrative is Black people were enslaved. Then Rosa Parks sat down. Martin Luther King created a boycott. And Obama was elected.
Yeah.
And so by starting our history in captivity, everything from then on looks like great progress.
Mm-hmm.
But it also ignores the greatness of who we were before we were enslaved. And that is not only problematic, it's tragic, it's ridiculous, and it causes a lot of problems for Black people.
What do you say then today to people that you know are good people trying to do right? What do you say to them in terms of them organizing Black History Month activities and getting speakers rounded up or things like that? What would you say to them if they're listening to the show tonight?
Right. Well, I've been invited, and I always am during Black History Month, to speak at churches. And so at that point, I let them know what Black history is.
The larger picture.
The larger picture. And they appreciate it greatly. It's great. It's received wonderfully well. We other times, because there isn't the knowledge, the acknowledgement of Black history will be the acknowledgement of enslavement. And so some churches will ask people to come dressed in olden time days. And so you'll see people come to church wearing sackcloths and overalls and calico dresses and bonnets, and and unfortunately it absolutely just detours and corrupts the truth. This is enslavement is a point of history for us, but if our history encompassed the circumference of a sweet potato pie, slavery would be only a sliver. And it would be so thin a sliver that even with the sweet potato pie, it would be transparent. It would be that thin that you could actually see through it. Because the crux and the whole of our history and our culture has been one of acceleration and greatness.
And there's lots of people walking the earth that don't want that in the forefront.
No. But if we had that in the forefront, it would eliminate a great many of the challenges that Black people face, not only in America, but all over the world.
What would be, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but give me an example. Like, for example, I was thinking like of this recent thing they discovered with my credit union.
Okay.
The Navy Federal Credit Union that I've been a member of for, that's my bank.
Okay.
That I've been a member of for 30 plus years. And they recently found out that there's CNN published a report indicating that there was lending disparities based on race
Right.
in 2024, 2023.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to think of taking in what you're sharing about all this. I'm trying to think of a way that, you know, are you saying that if a fuller, more complete, honest picture of Black history was told around the globe, that something like that wouldn't happen?
I can't say that it wouldn't happen, but I think that the response that Black people would have would be much different.
Mm.
I think that then Black people would say, we'll get our own bank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll create our own banks. We'll create our own funding situations.
And here in America, we've had that, but surely in Africa, there's many
Right.
banks available.
Right.
But here, it's Liberty Bank is a
Right,
and
Liberty
then,
is
with
one.
the first commercial. I think I researched all this before I moved to Mississippi because I was trying to figure out where I could do my banking because they don't
Sure.
have a branch here.
Okay.
So okay, so it would empower people that were being discriminated against to have a much better voice.
Right. We Black people would look inward instead of outward.
Yeah.
You know, it's like sitting in someplace versus creating your own institutions. You know, instead of asking someone who hates me, please let me sit next to you. Please give me the access that you have to whatever it is.
Right.
You know, instead of asking for that,
Mm.
I'll create my own. If I can't eat at this restaurant or I have to go to the back door at this restaurant, I won't go. I'll simply create my own. Whether it's my own kitchen or my own catering service or my own restaurant. But I will figure out a way that I don't have to demean myself or be humiliated or endangered by going someplace where I'm just not wanted.
You know, of all the things that you just shared, the thing that maybe got my attention the most was that when you do share about this, it's very well received.
Okay. Yes.
That really got my attention.
Okay, yes.
You know, and I hope the folks listening tonight, I mean, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear from you in the chat or call in. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this. You know, we've got this thing going on since 1976 with Gerald Ford, you know, that we call Black History Month.
I have to correct you on that, though.
Okay.
Okay. I believe it was Jimmy Carter, but Jimmy Carter signed some proclamation that was insignificant to Black people. We weren't paying attention to what Jimmy Carter thought or did. Black History Month was created out of community. It wasn't created from the White House.
Okay.
He simply recognized the fact that this is what we were doing, and we did it without recognition or asking for permission to create Black History Month. We simply created it.
I think it's fair to say that the Black History Month that the majority of America knows about today, that's where it emanated, though. You don't buy that?
I don't think so at all.
Okay.
I think that it emanated from the fact that so many...
I wonder why we mention it.
Well, besides here, I never hear it.
Okay.
I never hear it. Yeah.
I do.
I mean, what happened is that Black people created Black History Week, and then we decided that a week wasn't long enough, so we said we will take the entirety of the month. And when we did that, the different Black institutions recognized this and created around the idea that Black history will now be an entire month. And so we created recognitions for that. In the arts, it was created that way. In the media, It was created that way in black media, and it was pursued and publicized through black avenues
Okay.
in black spaces. So with that, then other people recognized the fact that this was going on outside of the
Got it.
community. Hmm.
Got it. It sounded like you'd be a wonderful person to write an article about all this for the Mississippi Link newspaper or the
yeah.
Advocate.
Okay.
I'm
Well, you all
partial.
have some-
I'm partial to the Link.
Yeah. But you have great writers. Absolutely.
Well, I think if we took a poll, I don't know how many of them would be able to have that same viewpoint that you have, and so that's why I said that might be a great educational tool.
Okay.
Just a thought.
Sure. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So we're and we'd love to hear from you guys on this topic. Maati really makes crystal clear that this is so much bigger than so much of what we have going on now that we think of as Black History Month, and to be able to take that in, we'd love to hear what you have to say about it. One thing's for sure, we don't want to disparage any actions or activities that are going on now, but the key, it sounds like, is to see the larger, broader picture, and I'm going to work on doing that. So I thank you for that.
Sure. I think what needs to happen is a type of refinement,
Mm-hmm.
and a type of course correction, so that we are really looking at Black history in its entirety.
And even like in textbooks.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, which you never, here
Right.
in Mississippi, you never know the status.
Right.
We may not have any more textbooks that
Right.
say the words Black history.
Right. Well, I
But-
mean, especially, considering that most of these textbooks are coming out of the state of Texas.
Yeah.
And they have a great deal of resistance when it comes to even talking about Black history, period. So we're looking at a situation that is just fraught with, if we're depending on other people to tell our story, then it's not going to be correct.
If there is anything in there, I bet you it goes back to 1975.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much for being with us. We're going to wrap up this first segment now, share a couple of commercials with you, and then we'll be right back.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, keepers of the knowledge for people who speak the truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippilink.com and click on Home Delivery.
And welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Sizzling in Mississippi. We've been spending this whole first segment speaking about what might be said differently as the real origins of Black history and what Black history really is all about, rather than what it's kind of become here in America, which is a sharply curbed piece, just a tiny piece without the right origin attached to it. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And in the meantime, we do have some things going on here in Mississippi that really just more sizzling things in Mississippi. I found out over the weekend that last, what day was that? January 31st, so that would have been last Wednesday, that civil rights attorney Jill Colleen Jefferson was found guilty of misdemeanor charges in a bench trial in Holmes County. Now, you may recall we talked to you about this. We tried very hard to get her in here. Can't seem to establish contact. But according to the newspaper Mississippi Today, she, in Holmes County in Lexington, in June, I believe it was June 10th of 2023, she saw a traffic incident, somebody being pulled over. And she didn't like what she saw going on, so she pulled her car over and got out with her phone and started recording. Well, the police in Lexington, they didn't like that.
No, they didn't.
Who do you think you are? And lo and behold, so that happened in June. The woman spent a weekend in jail, I believe 3 full days in jail. She could have got out a little early, but refused to pay an administrative fee that they were trying to assess to her, because she said she was wrongfully arrested.
Right.
And the charges were resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, failure to comply, blocking a public roadway for filming a traffic stop, which I didn't know that was in the statute, blocking a public roadway for filming a traffic stop. I think they kind of invented that on the fly.
Yes, sounds creative.
She said the outcome of this hearing session that she went to on the 31st was unjust because the judge, Marcus Fisher, did not consider evidence presented during trial, including an affidavit from a former Lexington police officer who had knowledge of Jefferson's arrest, and that she was being targeted in response to her legal work. See, she had filed charges against the city prior to that, claiming discrimination.
Yes.
And so this is what we see now. She's obviously going to plan to appeal, and looks like. And in the meantime, she was ordered to pay $600 in fine for the 4 misdemeanor charges. She could have faced. This, according to Mississippi Today, she could have faced a maximum of $500 for each charge and 6 months in jail for each charge. But instead, $600 for the whole thing.
Okay.
I wonder what that's all about.
Well, it's...
They trying to let her know they're being good to her?
Well, all of this is a violation of constitutional rights. We do have the right to observe police activities at a distance.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't in any way interfering with what they were doing, other than the fact that they wanted to do what they did in privacy.
Right.
Yeah. But she is a civil rights attorney, and she's well aware of her rights.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that she did not commit any of these offenses. They just don't believe in having to address bad behavior. This is Lexington, Mississippi. It's part of the Delta, and it's commensurate with the way that you would think a small Delta town would deal with advents of discrimination.
With a majority black population, but with a white police.
Right, and with a majority white power structure, which happens to be oppressive. Yeah.
And now they did, there's a few more things here. Before her trial, she and her attorney realized that they had 2 additional misdemeanor charges. So the woman gets charged, the paperwork has to be filed and all, but then you show up to court. So then going into court, they discover, these guys have added 2 more charges. So they added a charge that wasn't initially there, operating a cell phone while driving and blocking a public road. So the operating a cell phone while driving was dismissed. I don't know why. Why was it dismissed? but the blocking a public road was not dismissed.
Right.
And about a year earlier, again, this is part of the article in Mississippi Today, if you want to look at the whole thing. About a year earlier, the Mississippi Center for Investigative Reporting, Jerry Mitchell and company, broke the story about former police chief Sam Dobbins, who is white, bragging on an audio recording about killing 13 people in the line of duty, including how he shot one black man 119 times. Well, shortly thereafter, he was relieved of his duties.
Right.
And I thought I wrote down the name of the guy that took his place, but I don't have it in front of me right now.
Of course, dismissing him helps to alleviate the liability of the police department.
Right.
Yeah,
That's all it was about.
that's it.
So
It's
the
politics.
culture of the guy that had been there and thought that way and behaved that way,
Right.
the culture remains.
Right. I mean, he was very proud of it. If you've ever heard the audio, of killing 13 people, as far as I'm concerned, it's murder. And then one man to be shot 119 times. You're talking about overkill, oppressive situation that not only affects his victim, but everyone around the area, not only of Lexington, not only of the Delta, but Mississippi. This is where the fear factor comes from when we face this type of attack.
Just like whipping every other person when you do something like that.
Yeah. It cuts very deep in the black community.
And we do know that the Department of Justice is investigating not only the Lexington Police Department, but the city of Lexington,
Yes.
under investigation by Department of Justice. In fact, just a short while before that court hearing, Kristen Clark from Department of Justice Office of Civil Rights was in Lexington.
Yeah.
So we haven't heard the end of this, but it's a little update. She's going to appeal this, but for now, that's what we have on it.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And more things going on with the courts, Maati. Tomorrow, if I read the website correctly, tomorrow, the Mississippi Supreme Court will be, I don't know if it's an oral argument situation or reviewing a case or hearing arguments or something, probably hearing arguments on this SB 2780 and SB 3064, which came out of the legislature in 2022, where they're taking $10 million of the $1.8 billion that Mississippi was awarded in ARPA funds for infrastructure, and setting that and taking those funds and setting it in a separate pot for exclusive use for private schools. And Judge Crystal Wise Martin down there at the Chancery Court, she said, "Wait a minute, that's unconstitutional."
Yeah.
And so she put the nix on that, and of course Lynn Fitch, the Mississippi Attorney General, definitely appealing that ruling, and here's where we are now, up to the Mississippi. The idea of using federal taxpayer money,
Right.
exclusively to fund private schools in Mississippi. Just nasty.
Yes.
They try and
Yeah. But, for so long, private schools have been publicly funded, one way or the other. A lot of these private schools came about all of a sudden. And that was when the public schools had to be desegregated.
Right.
And at that point, all of these segregated private schools popped up around the state.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the public schools were vandalized, books were torn apart, desks were torn apart, demolished, school properties, and then funding, legal funding, as far as I'm concerned, came from the state to finance the creation of these private institutions to maintain segregation privately.
That was their goal. That was their aim.
Right.
And the Constitution, the Mississippi Constitution, says this about this topic, this what's referred to as Section 208. It says, no religious or other sect or sects shall ever control any part of the school or other educational funds of the state, nor shall any funds be appropriated toward the support of any sectarian school, or to any school that at the time of receiving such appropriation is not conducted as a free school. So
Can't do it,
yeah,
but yet they do.
and I'm guessing that you feel the same as I do, that you can't sit here with any confidence right now thinking that the Mississippi Supreme Court is going to back that up.
Right. No. No.
We're still waiting from rulings out of the Fifth Circuit Court. I checked the website today, and there's no decisions handed down on either the lifetime voter disenfranchisement of ex-felons that we heard oral arguments on. It just seemed like just a short time ago, less than 2 weeks ago. And then same thing with no ruling yet on the Jackson Airport takeover. To regionalize take away the Jackson Airport as an asset of the city of Jackson, and instead spread it out. Let everybody have the wealth. That's what the state of Mississippi does with contracting, by the way.
Yes. Yeah.
They spread the wealth everywhere.
Yeah.
95% to white people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so craziness.
Yeah.
Well, Maati, I have one more thing on the list that I knew that I know you'd be happy to speak about because of your affinity for the Mississippi governor, Jonathan Tate Reeves.
Yes.
And he was all over social media. He went down to the border, went to Texas,
Yes.
and went to the border over the weekend. It was a members only. Just got a flash of Bobby Blue Bland singing members only. It's the wrong kind of thing. So, Reeves and it looked like 11 or 12 other GOP governors descended on the border to meet with Texas Governor Greg Abbott over the weekend.
Yes. It's,
Who you suppose paid for that trip?
I think we did.
And what in the world? I mean, he came out of that saying, we just can't live with Biden. We just can't live with Biden anymore. He's killing us.
Yeah.
Well, is he killing us with it because of the migration?
No, there was legislation in Washington today that was bipartisan.
$118 billion
Yeah.
for a plan.
Yes.
For asylum and border protection kind of thing.
Right. And it's being rejected by the
House.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a bipartisan committee or ad hoc committee, however they
Yes.
put it together in the Senate,
Yes.
came to an agreement that they haven't come to in decades.
Yes. Right.
But came to an agreement.
Yes.
Put it forth. And the MAGA House
Right.
says no.
Right.
Dead on arrival.
Dead on arrival because former President Trump wants it to be dead on arrival. He doesn't want any type of legislation going through before he hopes to win before the election.
With you having a far bigger brain more refined than mine is. Do you ever recall, though, like a figure, an ex-president, or do you ever recall somebody?
Or a candidate
Uh,
of any sort.
You can't remember any?
No, of any. I can't remember former president or a current candidate.
That had that power to give orders to
Right.
the Congress people that we're paying for.
Right. Right. Right.
So that's the last you heard, is that they're not going to take it up, or
Right. That was the last before I left my
Yeah.
house today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really, we just have to sit and wait and watch this crisis continue on until after the election.
I wonder if they drove or flew. I wonder. And I wonder, I mean, how do you substantiate, it seemed to me like Mississippi quite away from the Mexican border.
Yes. Not as far as other states, but sure, yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
how do you substantiate something? To me, that's just raw politics.
Yeah, and we don't have a lot of immigrants in Mississippi anyway.
Mm.
You notice that? By comparison to other places. Plus, we're a Republican-run state, so we're really not going to have that many. And there's not a lot of opportunity here. So I don't know that it was worth the trip.
Did you see 60 Minutes last night?
Yeah, I did.
That blew me away when they said the largest group,
Right.
recently, I guess,
Yes.
not saying the largest numbers, but the highest influx of nationality is Chinese people.
Yes.
And they talked to some of these people, and that Alfonsi lady talked to some of those people, and one guy, he peeled off a list of about 10 different countries that he came through
Right.
in order to get here.
It was amazing.
And then the other lady, she didn't seem to want to answer the question on why,
yeah.
but ultimately out comes the word freedom.
Yeah.
Did you think that was a little staged?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. She left her children in
Left
China.
her children.
And she's an entrepreneur
Yeah.
in China. So she left there to come to the United States. And it was just like pulling teeth to try to get her to answer what was the reason why she was here. There's that 4-foot gap in the fence that thousands of people were just coming through.
And the guy that owns that land,
Yes.
he's an immigrant himself
Right.
from Yugoslavia.
Yes.
But he made the point of saying that he came in the front door.
Right. Well, he had to be here for a long time because Yugoslavia doesn't exist any longer. But yeah, and not only that, he's not able to protect his property. Remember, he was arrested when he tried to because some of the people had been squatting on his land and burning his trees for warmth that night, and he asked them not to burn his trees, and he said he was surrounded by a number of men, and so when he protested by gathering his gun, I think he said he shot it in the air.
Yes.
Then at that point he was arrested.
They came and arrested him.
Yeah, they came and arrested him on his own land.
You can't make this stuff up.
So much for the castle doctrine, but
I'd love to have a poll. I mean, what percentage of America, believes that it's a crisis at the border? Because I don't know. It seemed like we just look for things to call crises.
I know, yeah. We're
Like
kinda,
Katrina was a
yeah.
crisis.
We're kind of drama divas.
Oh. How many hundreds of times did you touch your phone today? The average person.
Yeah.
It just.
So, I mean, it all depends on, I think, where you are. If you're in New York or Chicago or Los Angeles, it may be that it's at a crisis state. But places like here, it's not.
So when Governor Abbott in Texas sends,
Yes.
busloads
Yes.
of people to, say, downtown Denver,
Yes.
that becomes a crisis for them.
Right. It's hard for them to handle this influx. They're not prepared.
And on
so-
some level, that's chaotic because why? Because people
It's
have to be
punitive.
taken. Well, it's punitive, but then the city where people get dropped off,
Yes.
they feel some type of obligation. I mean, in New York, they're trying to establish housing. Where
Yes.
we hear about these tiny homes.
Yes.
I think that could have been Denver. People
then-
are trying to do things.
yeah.
Why are they trying to do things?
Yeah, and then even using schools as safe havens
Yeah.
and housing, and of course, then you're running into citizens who are already here, and how do you orchestrate a solution that's a solution for everyone and doesn't impedes on the rights of anyone? How do you do this? And it's a big question. And then when people are just sent without preparation
Mm-hmm.
to these havens, it's not really a haven.
Not a haven.
Yeah.
And yet people are trying to help these people when they
Right.
get there.
Right. But then we also have the homeless who are citizens of America. We have veterans who are homeless, citizens of America, and their needs are being largely disregarded.
Right.
So and at that point, it becomes a crisis when we're trying to figure out how to solve all of this to the betterment of everyone.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. We've run out of time. We're definitely going to be back here next week, God willing, back for another installment of Sizzling Mississippi. Have some more topics for you. Hopefully we can get. I heard there was a call in earlier, but it didn't go through, or person hung up or something. But we'd love to talk to the listeners, and maybe can get a laptop in here next week to be able to monitor comments and so forth. But thank you so much for joining us each and every week, and hope you have a good week. Take good care of yourselves and each other.